My profession is a lawyer, and I work in the industrial courts, labor courts, and the Bombay High Court. And mainly, we started a project working with recyclers in Dharavi. They are recyclers who work in plastic, in cardboard. So, my association is with Dharavi for a long time, and mainly because these informal workers are not represented by any laws, and they don't fall into the ambit of the courts. So I thought we should have a organization which represents them, their voice, and make them stakeholders in the entire waste management industry of this city. So that's how I came in touch with the recyclers. Apart from that, I have a family connection. My grandfather uh, started a restaurant in Dharavi in labor camp, and this is in the 50s when he came to Bombay as a migrant himself. So it's a long association with Dharavi. In a state like Maharashtra, and especially Bombay being a financial center, Dharavi plays a very important role where the politics of this city goes. Having a population of 1 million, it's a huge vote bank. And every chief minister considers Dharavi as a hot potato. So you will always find these announcements for redevelopment coming just before the elections. And then the way the wind blows in the elections, either the project takes off or it never happens. So in the case of Dharavi also, the fact that due to the cutoff dates, a large number of people get displaced by whatever redevelopment is being planned, including the current one. This displacement looks very bad on the report card of any chief minister because they do not have the facilities to or planning to house this large number of people who are being displaced. And no political party or no chief minister wants to end his career with this visual of hundreds and thousands of people packing their belongings and trudging out of Dharavi. So this I consider is one of the reasons. And the second is Dharavi is also cash cow, and it creates an ecosystem by itself in which various parties, various politicians, various agencies who are working service sectors make a lot of money from the poor. So this kind of large captive consumers in the heart of the city of Mumbai is required for all these people who are living off the people of Dharavi. I would say it's been this kind of, uh, up and down and, totally connected to those who are in power. If Adani is the flavor of the month and he seems to be a very popular corporate entity which is winning all the tenders. So to the lay people and the people of Dharavi, it's very obvious that the government is in favor, both in the center and state, to award this contract to the Adani. I am not privy to all what happens behind closed doors, but the general perception in Dharavi is people want redevelopment, people want hygienic toilets, people don't want to stand in queues, people want houses which are decent, and I think it's a democratic right for people to have housing. Now, this need of the people is being exploited by the politicians. Though Maharashtra is one of the most, I would say, the most progressive state where housing is concerned, they already have a SRA, that is the Slum Rehabilitation Authority. They have MHADA, which is the Maharashtra Housing Development Authority. They have MMRDA also, which has built the BKC. And all these agencies don't seem to have any interest in developing Dharavi. That I find very strange. Even earlier, before settling came into the picture, they had to import, and this happened during Congress times also. NRI architect, he was asked to come to Bombay and set up an office. So the first plans were drawn by this NRI architect who was promised a huge fee, and he was making these plans for a long time, till one day he was just thrown out after being paid crores. So this entire history of Dharavi is such that every political party which comes into power would like to give this project to their chosen, their blue-eyed boy. And what we see happening now is Adani's entry has caused resentment among a lot of political parties, a lot of stakeholders, and due to the Hindenburg report, Adani's record in terms of the stock market, in terms of foreign investment, is being questioned. At such a time, the people of Dharavi are just nervous that if they are being displaced, and this would be one of the largest projects in modern India, and taken to a transit camp, and this project is supposed to be over a period of 14 years. They don't know their fate, when they will come back. So this creates, this kind of insecurity amongst the people, which is normal. You ask any middle class person, if their houses were ripped off and they were told that we don't know when you will come back, or the builder is not known and he has so many interests and you don't know when this corporate will collapse. As the reports show, there's a lot of short selling. So I'm saying, given all that, the history of the government supporting one corporate house against settling, and today settling is in the High Court. This matter is sub judice. And they have asked the courts to interfere as to why the tender was taken away from them. See, we need to, what Mr. Adani and all the planning authorities must look at what is happening in the city today. There was a fire in a SRA building in which 60 people were injured and about 7 people died due to the fact they didn't die out of the flames, they died of suffocation. And it took the fire brigade 3 hours to put off the fire. And the residents said, when they were interviewed, they were recyclers who work with rags, and they were in a slum and they were put into this building, and the people said they were much better in the slums because they had at least place to run. In this building, there was no water. They had problems getting water. The lift was not working, and people have been put there against their wishes, creating these fire hazards where people are being threatened every day because there is nobody there to pay the maintenance. So the fear of insecurity of the people of Dharavi who want good houses is there has to be proper planning. And unless and until the residents of Dharavi are taken into confidence and they are part of the decision-making process, today people in Dharavi are surviving. They work 12 hours a day and they've built a workers' colony which has its own ecosystem. Today services are made for Dharavi, goods are manufactured for the people of Dharavi, and they are able to run their lives without any government support. Now, when you decide to disrupt this entire people's township, a lot of planning has to go into that, whether you're going to improve their lives or you're going to send them the same future of what happened to the people in the Jai Bhavani SRA building. Now that worries me, that is there enough thought being put into this largest development, or is it only about money? Because this kind of greed over people is what is costing this country a big price. And my fear is that the people of Dharavi are going to resist. And it should not be that after you build these new houses, which are going to be these multi-storied buildings, people are not able to survive. Their livelihoods are taken away. Their social networks are taken away. And they find the maintenance, the taxes, and the day-to-day living in a high-rise expensive. And what we will be creating one of the largest displacement of people, because nearly 50% of the people are not even included in the survey. So these people are anyway out from day one. So what the people have been demanding is a fresh survey. And firstly, they should know that they are part of the plan. Today, if half the 500,000 people or 5 lakh people are not even stakeholders in the entire redevelopment, then who are you redeveloping for? And I don't think one should put all these things together. It's not that people are against Vikas or redevelopment. Every human being wants a house with respect, with dignity, where they can have their children, they can have bathrooms, they can have toilets, and they can have running water. They want schools for their children. They want a roof. They want a house where they can live with dignity. And it is all being put together that asking for all this, then you have to accept any corporate which wants to build this at whatever cost. I think the question we need to ask is, what is the wealth of Dharavi? What do we have in a workers' township, which is the subject of hundreds of PhD theses? I have worked with so many research scholars coming from all over the world who study Dharavi as a place where people live and work. This unique combination of a workplace and a living place, where one floor you live and you have a house, a cottage industry or a small working space, and somebody manufacturing and offering a service in the another floor. This unique kind of housing has been recommended for large cities and global cities like Mumbai by housing experts from all over the world. This thing of putting slums vertical, where they lose their workspace, these are migrant workers. So one thing we need to understand, that the whole of Dharavi has been built by people's sweat and blood. The government has no role to play. This land has been reclaimed by this 1 million people. And if it is the third generation of people who are residing there, they have literally put mud and bricks and built these slums. Now, there's a popular saying that whenever wealth is created, there are 10 people who want to claim a large portion of it. It's like the government landing up now and saying that you are all squatters. The last 75 years to 100 years, various families from all over the country have come and settled in Dharavi. You have leather workers from Salem in Tamil Nadu. You have Kumbharwada, where there are people from Kutch and Gujarat. You have UP karigars who are working there. You have garment workers from Bihar. You have so many people in the entire leather industry. There are karigars from all over Maharashtra. There are Dalits from Marathwada. The labor camps were built by the British for their workers. All these people have made Dharavi their home. Now, when you have created such a space for them, and then you decide that they are an eyesore because you didn't provide them services and you did not take them to be part of your civic services which you are offering them, and you don't see them as citizens, you see them as squatters. The problem begins from there, that the entire DRP right now considers the 2.5 square kilometers or 600 acres as notified and taken over by the authority. The people of Dharavi have no stake in the land which they built. Now, this is where the lopsided planning begins. So then you consider people as squatters, you start measuring their houses. So the people are asking, where were you when we lived for the last 50 years, buying water, getting electricity at high costs, living with the entire families in 100 square feet, sending children to school, getting fleeced by all kinds of agents, even for a voting card or an Aadhaar card. So I'm saying this migrant labor which comes to Bombay is like any other migrant labor. So I feel that instead of celebrating this workers' colony and seeing their uniqueness, you are not building it into your plan. This uniqueness of workplace and living space and space for migrant labor to build a township or build a city like Mumbai has to be considered. So by putting them on these vertical towers, you will be first of all alienating them from their livelihood. The minute you alienate from their livelihood, they will not be interested in living here because it is too expensive. So yes, they may all rent out their premises or sell it and finally go and live somewhere else. So there are more Dharavis being created all over the city. So in the current redevelopment plan, 50% of the residents of Dharavi are not being considered. They have done a survey much earlier, and in that survey, post 2000 slums have not been included. So what they have on record is about 56,000 or 58,000 houses, and whereas there are estimates of over 300,000 houses which are there today in the last 23 years. And people are not creating any law and order situation. The people of Dharavi are peaceful and they struggle every day to send their children to school like everybody else in Mumbai. And this is without any government help. So today, for all development or all planners to see Dharavi only as real estate would be a mistake. And I think we must respect the views of every representative, every political party which represents the people of Dharavi have the right to give their objections to the plan. So there is a misnomer that it is only the opposition parties who are actually opposing the DRP and Mr. Adani doing this redevelopment. I would say that today this Dharavi Bachao Andolan which is going on is representing a voice of the people, and the rest of the people who are not on the roads are silent, not because they are not interested, but they are also cynical. They are cynical both of the government's plans as well as coming on the road, because for them it is loss of their livelihood. So let's not wait for people to come on the roads, because if every resident of Dharavi decides to step out of his house and walk on the streets of Bombay, Bombay will come to a standstill in a couple of hours. So we should respect that voice of all the political parties, call them to the table and have discussions and make people centric to the entire redevelopment plan. My advice to Mr. Adani would also be to read the writing on the wall and not rush where many of the chief ministers have not rushed before, and he should not become a scapegoat in this entire fight in Dharavi, because this is a redevelopment plan is bad planning by the government, And they are using Mr. Adani to today have surveys and make the people pay for living in Dharavi for the last so many years. And if more than 500,000 people are going to be made illegal residents of Dharavi, we must remember they also become illegal citizens of India. And there is no space in Mumbai today to absorb 500,000 people. And we are creating a law and order situation. So hence, it will be in the best interest of the planning authorities to discuss the housing of these 500,000 with all the parties who are opposing, call them to the table, have discussions, and all future plans should be made only after they get a consensus from all the stakeholders of Dharavi.